welcome back to another episode. This is going to be a short one. I thought I did this video a little while ago, but I guess I did not. But so I want to show you guys how I do my oil changes on my car. In this case, it's VRZ time. Haven't done an oil change for a while, and so I have an autocross event on Sunday, and I have to make the oil change. But so what we're gonna need is a handy dandy oil filter from Subaru, and we have something here that came on the mail a little while ago, which will be oil, a lovely screw-on filter that I have printed, and also our beautiful, where did I put it, funnel to put the oil back into the container. Let's get it done. That will give us enough clearance to go underneath the car, and it's gonna be as easy using our lovely oil pen. Make sure it's not covered. Yeah, tap it. And before you do any of this, make sure that you have an actual crush washer and the right filter, so you do not have to run to the dealership. As you can see, we have our lovely Subaru oil filter, and it comes with the crush washer. So I'm gonna go ahead, measure exactly the same one. We should be good to go. And so this is what we're gonna be doing, right? So we have engine oil place where you drop the oil, and then you have your filter next to it. So we're gonna remove the filter. Should be hand tight. But I'm not gonna remove it yet. And then underneath the car, we're gonna remove our lovely 14 bolt with our ratchet. Make sure it's loosening. And actually, let me go get some gloves. I don't want to dirty my hands. Make sure you center your oil pan and a little tilted to the outer side because the bolt is not straight. And we're going to loosen the bolt. The bolt should not be too tight. If the dealership employees knew what they were doing before I open it, I should get some napkins to clean my hand. I got them at Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight is not sponsoring me. They should. Otherwise, I don't know what they're doing. Wasting their time on and not in my content, but so yeah. And he's out. Take it out, clean our hand. You remove the old crush washer every time you do an oil change. Unless you really don't have that, you can reuse it, but you should not do it more than once, and you should put a new one, which in this case It came with a filter. We're gonna add it to the bolt, but make sure that the little raised part, you see how it has one flat, one raised, make sure the flat goes against the bolt and the raised part goes towards the inner, so when it crushes it upwards, it just makes it flat to its surface. Now that we have that set up, let's remove the filter carefully. Filters out. I usually just clean up on this engine. Let me just show you guys. On this engine, there's usually like a little oil residue there that I like to always clean, so that way there's no like dirt, but I always clean going out so it doesn't go in to the filter hole. And then I usually just clean the edges because that's where the dirt accumulates from the engine bay. Right now, as you can see, it's not that dirty because I usually clean it every time I do an oil change. And then that's it. Some people like to refill the oil filter with like new oil. I just like to get the outer rim with a little bit of the old oil, so that way it doesn't crack up and dry. I'm sure that some of you guys may think that's just not necessary, but I think it's okay. Some people like to fill this up with the new oil. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. Today I'm gonna be doing it. I'm not gonna put it yet because I have the engine bay, the bolt is open. So if I do that, it's gonna dump a little bit of oil out the oil pan. So we're just gonna wait. All right, and so usually I lower one of the sides of the engine bay, so that way the motor tilts to the side, because I've heard that the oil pans or the oil reservoir doesn't really have, it's not a straight position, so sometimes you gotta lower one side so the oil can move and leak out. I have found that this actually does, so let me just show you guys. Let me lower it and you can see. But as you can see, when I lower this side, the oil, some more oil is gonna leak out. I don't know if you guys are able to see it, but I can see oil leaking right at the moment right now. Since my car is a little low, I don't want to go any past that point, but you can see here how oil is still leaking. I'm sure you can see that fine line of oil dripping into the oil container. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the amount of oil that this engine takes. This is a 2013 Subaru BRZ, and usually on an engine like that, it takes about 5.3 quarters, but usually it's not as straightforward as that, because the engines usually keep some oil. You can never really drain it all fully, so I usually buy a 5-quart container, and usually it's about as much as it takes, but you do need to make sure that you check your oil level through the stick. Make sure that you have enough. If you don't, add more if you don't have enough. All right, now that we have finalized the oil spilling, I guess you can call, or draining, we're going to raise back up the car. All right, heading that as support. I'm gonna put the bolt, but before, we're going to clean up again the actual leaking hole. Bring you guys back down. clean up your surface. Make sure there's no oil residue. Now I usually don't really tighten the bolt with lots of force, just enough to keep it tight and not loosen. Some technicians love, and when I mean love torquing these bolts to a massive amount of pressure. You don't need that. There we go. That's tight enough when I don't have to put too much pressure. That should be good enough. Let's remove this. And here we have to test, make sure that we add some oil on the tab and verify that there's no leakage underneath the engine bay. And if you've seen my short videos, you've seen that I have printed a, I guess you can call a screw-on funnel for Subarus. And so I'm gonna show you guys that I'm using it today. So we're gonna remove this top and we're going to screw it in tight enough, and we're gonna put some oil in it now. But I want you guys to see that there's no leaks underneath. So ideally you put about half a quart and then you verify there's no leaks. You could put your hand in there, but chances are that if it is not leaking, it will not be dripping because we were able to tighten it. That's up to you guys. Moving up here, we're going to be putting the full oil. And we're gonna double verify again down there. There is no leaks. Okay, I'll see you guys in a little bit while I finish doing this. And so the last thing to do is get our filter, put it back in its position, tighten it just with a hand. Do not use a tool. Make sure that it's hand tight. We are going to semi-clean the funnel so we can remove it and it doesn't drip. Side note, this is really cool. I'm really happy that I was able to print this little gadget because it's very helpful. I don't have to hold the funnel while I'm pouring. Instead, it just stays there. And also, not to mention that it's helpful because it has the little pivot or whatever you call it, the little hole that lets it breathe out. So in case you overflow with high flow oil, nothing will happen. It will just do its job. But yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 right there. Lastly, you want to clean up your oil cap. I usually do to clean any residue of like dirt or whatever. And I put it back in. Same concept, hand tight. And that's it. Clean up your surfaces around it. Make sure you don't leave any tools on your engine bay. Close your hood. Then the last step would be lower your car. Run it for a little bit before you check the oil levels. Now we're gonna crank it up, let it run for 5 minutes, and we're gonna check the oil levels. All right, now that that's done, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we have enough level on the oil. And for that, we're going to use our lovely shop napkins again. Raise up the camera a little bit. And then here we have our yellow stick. The first one, you wipe it clean because it's been running, and you dump it, and then you show how much oil it has. Maybe I should just do it again because it wasn't showing enough. And your oil level should show in between the two lines. Right now I don't think I let it run enough, showing right at the bottom of one, but I have to run it for 5 minutes and make sure outside on the street so the pistons can have all of it. Let me see if I can crank it up and rev it to get the oil level go up. Okay, so I did that off camera, and as you can see now, we have our oil level in between the two lines. And that's how it's supposed to be. Usually people go by has to be by the very highest point. I like to run it before I can top off. So right now I'm okay looking at it in between the lines. Then once I run it for like 5 to 15 minutes drive, check it again. If I see that it's way too low below the middle line, usually I bring it a little, top it off with a little more. But now we're gonna go into the more intricate stuff to do. Now a lot of people are like, oh well, yeah, you know, I can change the oil. That's not a problem, you know. It's like I can totally do that. But then they start asking themselves, well, how do I clean up the mess that I did? That's where this comes handy. Okay, so remember how I mentioned that you did not want to discard your container of oil because you may need it? Well, this is where it comes handy. You don't have to have this. This is brake cleaner. I use it because I don't like leaving all residue in my oil pan. But you don't have to. You can just keep it dirty. So a lot of people do. I guess I'm just a little more concerned about grime and dirt being there in case of my kids touch it. But again, I don't like touching oil, so I'm gonna put some new gloves again, and we are going to be using our lovely funnel that I printed as well. So this funnel is a rapid flow funnel. This one, as you can see, we have some grooves in a spiral, so when you dump oil, it just goes right through real fast. One thing I was noticing is when I had that generic tall funnel, it was going, but at some point the level of oil would just keep on rising, so I had to stop. It's kind of hard with these oil pan, so that's why I'm gonna demonstrate right now. So I have a high spot here where I put my oil pan, and the spout goes to the outer, and then underneath I have my stuff. And what I do is either I hold this here or I carry this into the container. Right now, for the camera purposes, I'm going to do it this way. So I'm gonna hold it with one hand and I'm gonna pour it. I should remove this. And I'm gonna pour it with the other. So as you can see, it goes right through. And if you're concerned about overflowing it, I mean the container, you see the clean line on the back? That is the one that tells you how much level of oil you have. But as you can see, I'm pouring and pouring in kind of a lot, and it's still going through like no problem. So that is why I like it. I'm checking the oil level on the container as we do it, just to make sure that I'm not gonna overflow it. Because remember, this is a 5-quart container, and my engine takes 5.3. Not much more, but it does. Technically speaking, it can still fit in this bottle, but I wanna be careful. And as you can see, I wasn't struggling with the oil spilling everywhere. It went right through, and that's what matters. Now, you may not have that big bottle. You may buy those small bottle containers on your AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts, but you can do the exact same thing. Put the funnel in a small bottle to fill it in. Usually they come with this white line or a clear line in the bottle, so you can see the level of it, so you don't overspill it. Yeah, so this is basically how you would put away the old oil into it, and you would bring it to either AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, or any other parts manufacturer or store, and they would take that back with no problems. You may have to go in the back and spill it out, but it still works out. So the last step would be using the brake cleaner to clean my funnel and to clean my oil pan. So stay tuned. And so just to show you guys, I don't know if you can see, but the line is right here where it ends, which is past the 5 quarts, a little more, which is 5.1, 5.1, 5.2. But also we're not taking into consideration the oil filter or whatever burned on Subaru, because Subaru engines burn oil. That's right, you heard it right. Now we're gonna go ahead and clean this, pour a little bit on top of it, that doesn't matter. And so just like that, we have our little funnel cleaned up, ready to go for the next time, and our oil pan cleaned up as well. So that being said, if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.